Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Molnar here. Thanks for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Great to have you here with me. I hope everybody had a great new year. Let's take a look here. We are looking at the potential for a possible winter storm as we head into the weekend here. We're looking at, the GFS here and the European model actually showing quite a bit in the way of snow, the best chance of measurable snow we've seen so far this winter and in quite some time. And are we going to be seeing a massive cold air outbreak here? Is this actually going to materialize as we get towards the middle part of January? We're going to take a look and see what the polar vortex watch here is showing. Let's get into it. All right, so before we dive right into the models, I'm just going to give you a sneak peek of the snowfall total potential here. Yeah, this right here is the GFS. This just takes us through Monday morning. This is mainly over the weekend from later Saturday into Sunday. Take a look at that. That's a good solid area of 6 to 10 inches of snow. I'm going to talk more about this later in the video here just as we get into the models. And let's just flip over quick to the European model. Take a look at this. Yeah, as we head right into this weekend, particularly Saturday night and Sunday, look at this. The European is a little bit further to the north, putting a wider swath of 6 to 10, maybe upwards of a foot of snow in the Poconos and Catskills. All right, so the European model here, let's take a look and see what we got going on here. So we're starting off, and then we'll transition over to the GFS. You can see we have a couple pieces of energy here as we go into Wednesday and Thursday. So we got the West Coast here, a piece of energy here across the four corners, something hanging out here, at least here off the southeast coast. Now let's see how these all play together for our potential weekend storm. So we got that piece of energy diving down here across the southern plains. This is already Friday the 5th. So you're probably wondering, how is this going to materialize? We still have a big old high pressure system, and this system seems to be heading out to sea at this point. So there's definitely no phasing going on with that, but let's take a look and see how this evolves. So yeah, that starts to really develop along the Gulf Coast. I told you this winter we'd see those El Nino type low pressure systems here developing along the Gulf Coast. So this El Nino pattern is really bringing in, some really good moisture here. And that high pressure here to the north, I think will be enough to lock in at least some marginally cold air. Now watch what happens as we head. This is 1 a.m. on Saturday morning. Look what's happening. It skips most of the Ohio Valley here. It comes up through parts of the mid-Atlantic, low pressure right off of North Carolina here. So take a look at this. This pinwheel's to the north. It's not a terribly strong low. European here is showing a 998 millibar low. That's not a bomb. But this is probably our best chance of accumulating snow, obviously so far this winter, especially in some of these areas here into parts of the interior northeast and mid-Atlantic. So this is something we need to keep a very close eye on here. The track of the low is key, along with precipitation rates, because this storm could manufacture some of its own cold air, which is likely. Now here is 7 a.m. on Sunday morning. You can still see we're socked in here. This is a 996 millibar low. So continued, precipitation here, especially the heaviest precipitation across this area. So definitely got to keep an eye on this. The trends have been there. The models have been basically honing in on this. Look at Nova Scotia and parts of southern New Brunswick as well, getting in on the act as we get towards 7 p.m. Sunday evening. So then it really starts to intensify once it gets well off the coast here of the U.S. and then towards southeast Canada. So then it starts to deflect out to sea here as a much stronger low. And do we have anything behind that before we get into the GFS here? Look at that. That is, we start to see this system really start to blast out of the plains here towards the 9th and the 10th. Could be a severe weather outbreak with a very heavy rain here across the Gulf Coast region. And look at that. This could end up being a much warmer system. This is January 9th, but it's possible that we could have enough cold air locked in. Look at this, high pressure over southeast Canada. Look at this, lots of moisture coming to the north here. So this is something we definitely need to keep our eyes on. A very close watch as we go throughout next week, because the exact track is key. This looks like a much stronger storm, by the way. Let's take a look at GFS. All right, so the GFS here, we have the precipitation depiction turned on here. Take a look at this. As we head throughout the rest of your Wednesday into Thursday, there's that weak system. There is no phasing here. You see in the Ohio Valley, you may see a couple wet snowflakes into parts of the interior northeast as well, as we get throughout Wednesday night into Thursday. Not looking at anything major, but here's our next big system here. The energy pushing across the four corners and then the southern plains here. The GFS initially taking a little bit farther to the north So yeah, this is going to swing that front here across Texas. I don't expect anything too major, but we could have some thunderstorms, maybe some strong storms. But look at that across the Central Plains. That's where we're going to see the snow really kicking in. And look at this as we get throughout Saturday. Here it is, 1 p.m. Look at that burst of snow here. Let's just back that up. So the snow starts across the Appalachians, parts of the Ohio Valley, southern Ohio. But look at this. It is a fast mover. So here is 10 a.m. on Saturday morning. So this heavy snow is in the suburbs of D.C. on westward here. I got to go slow because this is actually a very quick mover. That's the only thing that could limit these accumulations. Look at this as we head throughout 4 p.m. on Saturday. Yeah, snow is really starting to intensify here. The white area is really starting to burst heavy here, as well as eastern Pennsylvania, southern tier of New York. And look at that. If we get to 7 p.m., the evening hours of Saturday, we might get some bursts of heavier snow into the suburbs of New York City here. There's 1 a.m. Sunday morning, and this pulls out. Yeah, it's moving pretty fast, but there is a trough of low pressure that does kind of hang back here, and that could enhance some further snowfall accumulations. Could we actually see some, intense bursts of heavier snow as far south as New York City? That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. And look at this, rain kind of mixing with the snow. Nothing too major here in the Ohio Valley, but with that trough of low pressure, we'll have to keep an eye on that. It might focus a couple inches of snowfall, especially in the higher elevations. And that storm pushes back over towards the ocean here until we get our next system. Very much in agreement here with the European model here. Watch this as we go throughout, time here. There's going to be a big surge, of warmer air here ahead. But look at that. We lock in with some snowfall rates initially on the front end of the storm could be pretty high, but then the warm air on this model run really takes over, and then we switch back to snow on the backside. So this is going to be looks like a bomb, but it heads much further west, so much different than the first storm. And then look at that. We just start to get one storm after another, at least on the GFS, coming out like this. So our best chance of snow is this weekend. Hopefully we get some snow because it looks like the chances are kind of dwindling as we go towards the middle of January. All right, so let's take a look at the European model here for our pattern. This is what's coming together. First, a trough kicks in across the east. That lifts out pretty quick. It's this piece of energy here across Texas. This is the one diving southward along the Rockies, Four Corners region. This is the one that's going to give us the potential for that snowstorm here across parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So watch out here as we get into Sunday, into early Monday. And look what's coming behind it. I did warn you there's the potential for another snowstorm potentially towards the middle to latter part of next week as well. So the pattern is really starting to get active. And if we take a look at the CFS model, we're just going to pick up where we left off with the European model. You can see this pattern is a very robust pattern here. Look at another chance of a potential storm here as we get into the 16th. Now, it's questionable whether there'll be any phasing, with some of these troughs, but, it does increase the chances that we'll see any East Coast snowstorms. Now, you start to see towards the end of the month here that Inferno Firecracker Ridge does begin to build again. So we have like a couple weeks opportunity here to get some snow before that were to, fall apart. And then look at the first week of January, or February for that matter, we start to get some troughs kicking in across the east once again. So here we go for the European model. I showed you at the beginning of the video, but I want to go into this detail. Take a look here. So this just takes us through Monday morning because there's potentially another storm later next week. So here it is. This is the area that I've outlined. This does keep it mostly away from the coastal areas. It targets central Pennsylvania up through the southern tier, Susquehanna region of New York, Poconos, Catskills, Hudson Valley region, into parts of central New England here. So this is a trend we're going to have to keep an eye on. Let's take a look at the GFS. All right, so if we take a look at the GFS here, this is what's going on. There it is across mainly southeastern Pennsylvania from Harrisburg, Philadelphia area, northern Virginia, all the way up through the lower Hudson Valley, part of the Poconos, and the Catskills getting hit as well. So this solution would favor more closer to the coastal areas. This might actually get some measurable snow into New York City, parts of Long Island as well, and then kind of washing up here to the north a bit and weakening. So I wanted to throw a third model in here. Let's just take a look at the Canadian model. Wow. Whoa. Yeah, Canadian model is really going all in here with some areas getting close to 20 inches of snow. Southwestern Pennsylvania, northeast Pennsylvania through the Catskills. That's quite a bit. I'm not sure if I'm in total agreement with that, but that would make up for lost time if we did get that much now, wouldn't it? All right, so let's get into liquid equivalent precipitation here. We're just going through the rest of the week here into the weekend. You can see that East Coast storm. It's riding up through the Appalachians and parts of the Mid-Atlantic into New England here into the Northeast. That's where we could see potential. We'll have to keep an eye out for the frozen variety of precipitation. Here along the Gulf Coast, you're going to get quite a deluge here. This is where we could see upwards of 3 to 5 inch potential. Look at the West Coast getting hammered as well. All right, so we're taking a look at the cold air outlook here for North America. Taking our European model, you can see cold air really starting to build up here into much of central northern Canada. You can see that starting to push down here into the northern plains. So much of Canada going into a massive deep freeze here by the second full week of January here, and we might start to see evidence of this pushing southward here as we go throughout the month. So here's the GFS model. Watch what happens here. So as we put this into motion, we're kind of pick up where the European left off here. Look at this. This is where we start to see a surge here right around the 11th. You see it pushing down into the plains and even to parts of the Northeast, much of eastern Canada, Quebec and Ontario, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia really getting in on the act of some frigid conditions. And look at this. Reinforcing shot here right around the 15th into the 16th. Look at that. The nose of it, the polar vortex just pushing down here into the Midwest. So things are going to get a whole lot colder throughout the month. All right, so as we take a look at the HRRR future radar, let's just take a look at the next 48 hours here. So yeah, we got a couple areas of concern. Look at across Texas here. Yeah, we got some showers developing as we head overnight into Wednesday morning. That heads east. Got some thunderstorms along the Gulf Coast here into Louisiana as we head towards 6 a.m. Look what's going on up into parts of the Ohio Valley here. We do have some lake-enhanced snows here in the suburbs of South Buffalo, maybe towards Erie. Cleveland looks like it's staying out of this for the most part, but some of this could be enhanced. There is a system kind of moving through here, so it will disrupt these bands as we head throughout Wednesday here. Watch this as we continue in time. You may pick up, an inch, a slushy inch or so in some of these areas, but, temperatures are very marginal for major accumulations. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but there it is. We might see some bursts of heavier snow as we head throughout Thursday morning here as well. Look at that from northeast Ohio up towards upstate New York, and then some of these bands trying to form off of the eastern Great Lakes here. Now let's get into, there's that energy. Let's just back this up. So there's that Gulf Coast low. It does not really meet up with that energy here across the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes. But watch our next piece of energy that's going to be pulling out here. Look at Florida. Yeah, thankfully this didn't happen during New Year's for any of you that were celebrating here in Florida. But look at this. As we head throughout the Four Corners region, there is that key piece of energy we're already starting to see drop into the Four Corners region. This is going to pinwheel southward here towards the Gulf Coast, and that's where we're going to get that potential low pressure riding up here towards the northeast for the weekend. All right, so if we take a look at the Canadian Weather Watch here, what's going on up here north of the border? Well, northern North America, let's just zoom in here. Lots of activity out here on the west coast of Canada. Kind of quiet here as we get throughout the week here into the east. We do got a little weak disturbances here. High pressure cresting overhead into parts of Quebec. Maybe some snow showers here into parts of southwestern Ontario. That pivots to the northeast here, but high pressure is the rule. Look at even out here on the western areas, the Rocky Mountains here into western Canada. It is just quiet. The thing that really starts to get active here as we get throughout the weekend into next week, especially next week, right around the 10th and the 11th, look at this massive, you're going to have quite a snowstorm here for parts of Ontario and Quebec as this big low blasts here and bombs out across the central Great Lakes. Look at that. Heading northward here. Lots of cold air to work with across eastern Canada here over towards New Brunswick and Nova Scotia as well. And look at that. That just pushes up well up into the Canadian Maritimes by the 12th and the 13th. Other than that, look at that. There's not much to talk about until the middle of the month. We get another one of those Colorado lows. That's going to help push, our snowfall totals here up across parts of Ontario and Quebec. All right, so your tropical update. I didn't want to leave you out here across the tropics from Mexico, Central America, all the Caribbean islands. Let's put this into motion. It is actually looking nice for the new year here. Look at this, January. So we head throughout January 4th into the 5th here. Maybe the Bahamas getting clipped here as we head towards the 5th and the 6th. The northern Bahamas with some showers, but there is not too much to talk about here as we continue to go out here in time. Mainly in the northern Gulf of Mexico here is where we start to get some big thunderstorms here. But you know what? For the most part, until about the 10th here, where we do start to get the tail end of this frontal boundary pushing into parts of the Western Caribbean here. So that might spark off some showery activity. But you know what? Until then, there doesn't look like a whole lot going on here. And then we do start to get some easterly trade winds bringing in some showers here across the central Lesser Antilles. And look at that across parts of northern Bahamas as well. So your liquid equivalent here across the Caribbean. Let's take a look at rainfall amounts. Mainly into eastern Nicaragua here with this little tropical, wave as we get into the mid to latter part of the weekend. But look at here into Jamaica as well. Over the next couple days, you could get upwards of 20, 25 millimeters. Maybe the eastern island getting upwards of 50 to 60, anywhere from about 1, maybe 1.5 inches of rain. And we continue through next week. It looks a little bit quiet as well. Central America not getting too much as well. So as we get into the eastern Caribbean through the Bahamas here, look at this. It looks pretty quiet as well, except for the southeastern Bahamas here near the Turks and Caicos. You could get upwards of 40 to 70 millimeters of rainfall, 1.5 inches, 2 inches of rain. But look at this. As we go through the, all the way through the second week of January, we do start to get some more rainfall here across parts of the Lesser Antilles, maybe upwards of 40 to 60 millimeters, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Same here in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands as well. Now, as we get out here into the Western Pacific, it's hopefully the situation is getting better here in Japan with that terrible earthquake. It is not your tropical season, thankfully. It's your cold season. Here into the Philippines, things don't look too bad through the middle of the month. The intertropical convergence zone does try to get active here towards the 11th and the 12th, but it stays mostly south of the Philippines here, so things aren't looking too bad out here, at least through the middle of January. And don't go anywhere, I just have more weather here in just a moment. Check out my affiliate here, these awesome maps. Have a look at this. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. All right, so let's cruise into the temperature-wise here. Yeah, the cold air is bottled up here over the northern plains, teens and 20s. We still got 30s and 40s here into the northeast and parts of the Ohio Valley. Watch what happens, though, as we head throughout the week. We start to see cold air building. Now watch, there's going to be moisture building, heat. I don't want to say heat, but humidity. And lots of moisture across the Gulf Coast regions. Now, we do get a little bit of a warm-up here into the Ohio Valley, upper 30s here towards Friday, January 5th. We got cold around the edges here, northern New England, cold, teens and 20s as well. But watch as we get into the weekend here. Yeah, it does look marginal for snowfall here into the northeast Saturday. All your cold air is over here in the Rockies and parts of the northern plains. But watch what happens as we get into Sunday here. Yeah, this is kind of interesting because, we start to see a little bit of a colder trend here in the northeast. Now, these don't look terribly great for snowfall accumulations, but I think a stronger, a moderate to stronger storm like this could actually manufacture some of its own cold air. So these might actually be at least a couple degrees cooler. And as we head into Monday, January 8th, this is showing a warming trend on the backside. This is the first time I'm not really in full agreement with these temperature maps. We'll have to take a look here. This is the guidance based on, the model trends and stuff. But yeah, this does seem a little bit warm behind it. But look what's happening up here into the northern plains. That's a big cold spell developing there. The extended outlook from our hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Susquehanna River Valley of upstate New York and northeast Pennsylvania. Take a look at this. So we head into clouds rolling in Wednesday. up towards the lower 40s. Into Thursday, we get a chance of some scattered snow showers, maybe some rain showers mixing in. It's just a weak system. Into Friday, mostly sunny skies. So we'll get those, but watch what happens for Saturday. We get that chance of snow, especially after noon here. And we might see a couple inches towards dark Saturday night and Sunday. That's going to be the real interesting part. Saturday night and early Sunday is when you could rack up your highest snowfall totals, potentially 6 inches or more. Stay tuned. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MeteoMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.